ComC is your home for buying, selling, and flipping all the hottest trading cards. Their consignment marketplace is home to over 29 million cards, from baseball superstars like Aaron Judge to Marvel favorites like Spider-Man. ComC has something for every type of collector. Visit ComC.com today to build your collection with your favorite cards. You're listening to the WaxPackHero Sports Card Minute, a podcast where we discuss both the hobby and business sides of collecting. I'm your host, Mike Sommer, and I want to help you buy, sell, and trade your way into a collection you'll love. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the WaxPackHero Sports Card Minute. I've got two things on my mind today that I want to talk about before we get into our main interview segment. The first one is this last collection I bought has been a lot of fun. As I talked about before, I picked up a collection. It was pretty much an entire attic worth of cards, memorabilia, collectibles, vintage display packaging, product packaging, just a whole random assortment of collectible antique type stuff. And it has been a lot of fun to start going through that, get things listed on eBay, and start to make some sales. I've learned about comic books, I've learned about product packaging, I've learned about Happy Meal toys, I've learned about all kinds of stuff over these last couple weeks. And so far the sales results have been pretty strong with that, but it just goes to show the learning process can continue to be fun. If you start to find yourself in a little bit of a stale situation, find something else to learn about, dig in, and excite that passion. And what that's giving me is additional profits and additional funds to continue to add to my PC. And so some of the key wrestling cards I've been looking for, the Wayne Gretzky that I've been looking for, some of those other sports and non-sports cards that have been important to me that are on my list of key cards that I want to own are becoming within reach with some of those excess profits. And so that has been the first thing that's been on my mind recently. And the second thing is, boy, I am sore. I had found myself getting a little lazy over these last few months, and my level of physical activity had been decreasing. The amount of not healthy food had been increasing. The amount of alcohol that I've been drinking had probably been starting to creep up a little bit. And I finally said, you know what, I needed to get a little bit right here. And so I kind of set myself a goal of the next 90 days following one of the P90 Beachbody routines. And so I'm going to be doing 90 days of exercise here, and I'm going to be cutting out alcohol over those next 90 days and eating more healthy, drinking more water, doing some of those types of things. But boy, that first week in, my muscles are a little bit sore, not being used to quite the same level of physical activity as I've been doing over the last 6 months or so. So those are the things that are on my mind right now. But our main topic today is going to be a conversation with Max from Sportlots. And so they've had a few announcements recently. They've got some changes coming to the site, and I wanted to bring Max back on to have that conversation, to tell us what's going on and what some of the things that we might be seeing over the next couple months are. We're going to start that conversation right after I tell you about Underdog Collectibles, the online shop run by collectors for collectors that breaks new product almost 7 days a week now across Facebook, YouTube, and Loop. You can also check out their shop in Knoxville, Tennessee to see their full selection of wax singles, watch some of those breaks live in the shop. They're also an approved group submitter to SGC, who's recently lowered some prices. If you've seen that announcement, you can learn more about their group submission process by checking them out at udogcollect.com, and that's also where you can see what they're going to be breaking this week. When you check out Underdog Collectibles, make sure you tell them that WaxPackHero sent you. Today, I want to welcome Max Steiner back to the show. Max is the owner and founder of Sportlots.com, and he was last on the show back in 2020, and a couple years have passed. A lot has gone on in the industry, and I wanted to get an update from Max on how things have been going at Sportlots and where things might be headed next. So, Max, welcome back to the show.
Well, thanks, Mike. I can't believe it's been 2 years. It seems like it was maybe 6 months ago, so great to be back.
Yeah, these last couple of years have just flown by. One of the main topics we talked about when you were on the show last time was a relatively new feature at that time, or an option at that time, for customers to consolidate their orders from multiple buyers, and that is the box order option. And we kind of talked about the basics of what that is. I wanted to get a feel for how that has gone as an option. I know personally, it seems like about half my orders now are box orders each month. How has that option performed based on your expectations?
Oh yeah, very, very good. We started it actually in June of 2018, I think it was. Um, and I think at the time, yeah, when we did the podcast, I was still operating the box orders out of my basement. So, and it was at a tipping point at that point. And had, one person helping me out part-time, uh, processing, the incoming mail that came from sellers and the outgoing mail that was packaging up the orders from sellers. From the sellers and sending it to the buyers when they request it. About, you think of now, is about 1.5 years ago, we finally outgrew the basement. It was, my wife is like, you've got to get this out of here. It was taking over almost the entire basement at that point. And we moved to office building. I think it's a little over 1,000 square feet office building. We've got I think it's over 1,500 boxes now. And we try to keep it no fuller than 95%, meaning that 95% of the boxes are being utilized at the time. Obviously we don't want to get in a situation where we have not enough boxes, because then things really start getting pretty hairy. So we try to keep it at around 95% capacity. And we're getting to the point where that 1,000-foot facility is not big enough. We're teetering on another big surge of having problems. So we're already and keeping an eye on other places. We don't want to move again. Boy, was that hard to move all those boxes and pack up all the cards so they don't get damaged. And so we don't want to move again. So I think ideally we'd look for another office space within that facility and just have 2 office spaces in that area, because wow, was that a pain moving.
Yeah, I bet. It sounds like it's somewhat of a good problem to have then. I mean, if the utilization has grown that much, that's a good thing for the site.
Oh yeah, definitely. The thought process was, when we did that, we didn't want to charge anything for the service, thinking that the additional business would help run that effort, hiring people and all the work that goes into that bringing in the extra business because of the lower postage rates would kind of fund that. So that's kind of the approach we took. And it's working out good. I think right now we're at about, you said 50%. It's not that high across the site. I think sellers that really provide a big incentive in terms of box shipping can really see a big jump in sales. I think there's a lot of people that are looking to buy, fill sets. They're either team collectors. There's the prospector aspect where people are buying up, a lot of rookie cards who are currently commons, hoping that someday they become stars and they'll buy hundreds of them. And once in a while they'll hit on it. And it's, great for them. Across the site, we're at about 35%. I know some sellers have gotten to the point where they love the box shipping so much because it's so much easier to ship one package instead of sending out hundreds of packages, that they've actually gone to the point where they've jacked up their shipping rates more for shipping individually to encourage box shipping. So that's kind of an interesting thing. I didn't think we would get there, but there's a few sellers that are doing that now, where they're raising their rates even higher to encourage more box shipping, because it's just a lot less work for them, and it's more efficient for them to process those orders.
Yeah, it's been great for me, and I offer free box shipping for customers. And I think that has definitely helped increase the utilization for me. And, when you get up to where you're sending 30, 40 or more orders a week, that free cost, or where I'm eating that entire shipping cost, really is a drop in the bucket compared to the overall amount of sales that I'm generating from those orders. And so it's been a great option for me as a seller. So yeah, I've been very, very happy with the results.
Yeah, I'm trying. There's a lot of sellers. I shouldn't say a lot. But there's sellers that are struggling with it, and I think it's because they're. I think what I would encourage them to try. It's worth a couple weeks of maybe paying more on shipping than normal, but it's to experiment for a week or two and try lower shipping rates. It cuts down on your cost. It bumps you up higher on the query searches, and it's easier to ship those cards out when you're shipping out lots of orders. Now, I've seen many sellers, and you might be an example of this, go from a yellow star preferred seller to a blue star preferred seller just because of the volume increasing, and even jumping up higher in those search results. So, I would encourage sellers that are struggling with it because they're only shipping 1 or 2 orders out a week through box shipping, to give it a try. It may not work. It doesn't work for everybody, depending on your mix of cards and what you have. But I've seen a lot of success stories with sellers saying, I'm going to give out free shipping, and I might have to ship out a flat rate box once a week and spend, 10, $15 in shipping. But in exchange, I'm doubling my sales. So I think that's something that I think it's worth it. I'm not going to say it's going to work for everybody, but it might be worth that 1 or 2 week trial period to see how it goes.
You've also had several announcements recently about upcoming changes to the site. I was hoping that we could spend a few minutes walking through some of those.
Sure.
The first one I think that I wanted to hit on is the announcement about the cooperative partnership with TCDB. Can you go into that a little bit?
Sure. So basically, Trading Card Database is receiving our pricing data. They had an interest in that. They've got a feature on their site where you can check historical prices, and they've really relied on a combination of eBay and their own network of registered users to submit pricing. And they just couldn't get the kind of volume that they could with a system like Sportlots, especially for the lower end cards, to get the kind of volume of real pricing data for their customers. So he had a real interest in getting that access to that information. Actually approached me on the idea of a partnership. And I looked at that and I said, boy, what can they provide on for me to kind of make this partnership work? And one of the things that we've talked about for years and I've never had the time to do, I just started getting into the gaming stuff, adding the gaming cards, and I thought, boy, they've got a great checklist of non-sports cards. And is there any way that we can kind of partnership where I provide the pricing, and in exchange, you provide the non-sports checklists for Sportlots? And that was a great sync. And I think there's some other opportunities down the road we might be able to do as well if we can come to some agreements. A lot of great ideas where we can kind of sync our systems up and provide other options as well. But that's gone really well. Obviously, we just loaded all the checklists and started selling. I think it was about a couple weeks ago, actually, the second. So 9 days ago, we started selling non-sports cards. We've got, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we've already got 125,000 non-sport cards loaded in the system from sellers. And it just looked, sales on non-sports cards is the fifth highest sport. It's not a sport because it's non-sports, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's a little lower than the top four. Basketball is the lowest of the top four, and it's just below basketball in terms of sales. Now, a lot of that is because of the bump, because it's new, but it's all way outperforming all the other lower sports combined. Soccer, golf, racing, wrestling, those kind of sports.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that option. I know that's something that you and I have talked about for a while now. I had a pile of non-sports ready to go that it just didn't make sense to list on other platforms.
like for the same reason, it doesn't make sense to list a lot of the other, commons and base stars and inserts and things like that on a lot of the other sites. The economics just don't make sense, but are a perfect alignment for Sportlots. And so I'm excited that has happened and that is an option. I know I've got several thousand cards listed, and I've already been generating sales pretty much every day. I've got at least some non-sports sales getting mixed in there. So I'm definitely excited about that. I think as the word continues to spread about that as an option, there's going to be quite a few people who are non-sport collectors who've got some of those Star Wars base and inserts and doubles and things like that just sitting in a box in their closet that they're going to be able to do something with now and kind of recirculate back into the hobby. So I'm pretty excited about that, both as a seller and as a buyer, being able to fill in some of the base sets that I've been pursuing over time that just were difficult to buy on eBay or ComC or a couple other sites. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, and what's really cool is with this agreement, Trading Card Database is still going to be, we'll call it the master copy of the checklist. So we've got a link that we can kind of sync up together. And if people want new non-sports checklists loaded, they can go to Trading Card Database and get them loaded out there, register with them or however. And once they get loaded within a week or so, those checklists will automatically be populated in Sportlots.
You'd mentioned about how many are loaded already and what the sales volume is. How does that compare, I guess, to the expectations that you had going in?
Oh, let me tell you, I had no idea the volume of checklists out there for non-sports. I couldn't believe it, and when I was running, the syncing process of pulling a checklist over from Trading Card Database, I could not believe the amount of checklists out there. It was incredible. It's a lot bigger than I ever imagined. There's no way. It would have taken us years to obtain and load all those checklists on our own. It would have been a huge effort.
And as far as I know it's only been, a little over a week and a half or so since it's gone live, but how about from a sales perspective? Did you anticipate that there'd be sellers loading as many cards as have been loaded so far and that you'd see the sales results that we've seen so far?
No, and inventory directly generally relates to sales. So if you look, baseball's number one in sales, baseball's number one in inventory. Right down the line, it's pretty consistent. And when I started seeing the sellers loading out the kind of volumes of inventory before we even started selling, I had a pretty good feeling that sales are going to follow that, just like everything else does.
Does the arrangement with TCDB expand beyond just the non-sports checklist? Will that allow any efficiencies for some of the other sports related checklists, or maybe the expansion into tennis or some of the other peripheral sports that exist out there but aren't yet available on Sportlots?
Yeah, I think that's some of the things that we need to talk about. What are some more things that we can provide for them? What are some opportunities in terms of partnerships that can maybe expand checklists, or maybe there's other opportunities for Trading Card Database being a platform that can help us sell cards from their platform. Maybe people can, who knows? There's a lot of different things. I was out and looking at the Trading Card Database forums, and there was a particular section about this process, and there were people responding, going, "Oh, it'd be great if they could do this," and I'm like, wow, that's a good idea. So I think there's a lot of opportunities there. Whether they pan out or not depends on, if we can make something work that makes sense for both sides.
One of the other announcements that you've had recently was that you're going to be bringing a web developer on board to help with some changes to the website itself. Can you talk a little bit about that and what the thoughts are there?
Yeah, well, this is a long time coming. It's something that I wanted to do we've discussed it even for a while. Something that I wanted to do for quite a while. It's not as easy as you think to find someone, just like any other business trying to find employees. But web developers is just a job that's in high demand, and it's hard to find someone that fits your needs. and finding the funding to come up with the money to do that. Being a small company with just a couple part-time employees to hire a developer who demands a pretty high salary was a large ask for us. But I just felt it was time. If we didn't do something in the next few years, we would probably be in jeopardy and be so far behind as far as technology that I felt we needed to do something. So we found someone. That's when, after I made the announcement, after we actually found someone, came up with a plan to fund that, and she started on the 3rd. Now she hasn't started any development yet. I told her I want to give her 2 or 3 weeks to understand the business. I mean, she didn't know the difference between a baseball card and a football card. Sure. So I want to understand the industry, understand our competitors' websites, to look at some of them, get some ideas from them, understand our current application, come up with a general theme. What's the header and the footer going to look like on the screens? We want to keep that consistent across all pages. And then also come up with an implementation plan. One thing I want to do is do a phased-in approach to redeveloping the website, so that we achieve some. I mean, we're phasing it into 2 things. It reduces the risk. You're not throwing hundreds of screens all at once, and if something goes wrong, you're in big trouble. A phased-in approach says, I can implement 1 or 2 pages, and if something goes wrong, it only affects those pages. And you can recover from that. The other benefit of phasing in is it gives you benefit sooner. So instead of waiting, I'm just throwing this out there, 1.5 years to get it all done, and there's no benefit. As you're putting in new screens, you're realizing benefit as you go. So I think that a smart approach. It might cause a little bit of issues in terms of navigation for a while, because of the screens are different and they look different, and how do you go from screen to screen might be a little clumsy for a while. But I think that disadvantage or the benefits outweigh that possible disadvantage.
Do you anticipate some of those changes are going to be more cosmetic versus functionality, or will there be ideas on some functionality enhancements as well?
Yeah, I thought about that a lot. I think what we're going to do is the 2 biggest things we're going to improve the navigation and make it mobile friendly. That's the 2 big keys. When I look at Google Analytics or some other pages, they show me that 75% of the users are using a smart device or smartphone to use the site. Well, I barely use a smartphone for my site because it's hard. So I can't imagine what people are doing and using it for right now. So that to me is the most critical thing, is to make it mobile friendly and improve the navigation. I've heard that over and over again, that the navigation of the site is difficult. And I think that's difficult because they're mobile device users. Desktop people, I think, have a much easier time navigating through the site. But mobile users probably really, really struggle with navigating the site today. And you're constantly using your finger to make it bigger, to see separate sections of the site. That's all got to change. Now, as far as other enhancements, I thought about this a lot, and I think what we're going to do is, if we've got the opportunity to make small improvements that affect only the screen that we're putting in, I think we're going to take advantage of that. Obviously, because we're phasing in, we can't put it in an enhancement that affects 10 different screens, because that requires us to then go back to those old screens, spend time making changes to old screens that are going to go away anyway. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to do that. So I think when there's an opportunity to make a functional enhancement where it's fairly easy and it's limited to the screens that we're putting into production coming up, I think those make sense to do.
Is there a way for people to make suggestions on ideas for future enhancements and things they'd like to see? You mentioned that you maybe were able to glean some good ideas from some of the conversation on the trading card database forums. Is there another way that users of the site can offer suggestions for things that they feel might help the buyer or the seller experience?
Yeah, so I have a folder full of enhancement ideas that people have suggested just by sending us a message on the site.
Okay.
You just send me a direct message saying, "Hey, I got a great idea." And I love getting those. 8 out of 10, someone else has given it to us, or we already know about it. But every once in a while, there's an innate idea that, like, wow, that's a great idea. Make sure I file that away and make sure we take a look at that when we get to that screen. And that's one of the reasons why I felt it was important to bring on a developer, because I've been making a lot of promises over the years that I haven't been able to keep. People saying, "Hey," and I think, "Hey, that's a great idea. I'll get to that in 6 months." Well, 6 months come around, and sure enough, they'll send me a message. "Hey, where's that at?" Well, maybe another 6 months. So it's definitely needed to start addressing a lot of those enhancements and make the site mobile friendly.
Are there any other kind of upcoming changes or things going on with Sportlots that you want to make sure people are aware of?
Not really. That's quite a lot for us. Now that non-sports is done, it's not completely done. There's some things that I need to do for ongoing support of non-sports. But once that's done, we're really going to start in full swing, start working on these changes. I've got some ideas in terms of phasing, what's going to come in first and last, but I don't want to pre-fill the developer's mind of what I think. I want her to have a blank slate and have her recommend an implementation plan, and then we can have that discussion and see what makes the most sense in terms of what comes in first and second and third and so on.
Very cool. I know personally, I am excited about the ongoing changes, the addition of non-sports. I'm excited about the refresh that the site will undergo over the coming months. It's like I've said, and I've told you, and I tell everybody who asks, Sportlots is one of my core foundational sites that I think I utilize regularly to help support what I want to do within the card world. And between eBay, ComC, and Sportlots, those three sites for me work together perfectly to sell the type of inventory that I enjoy collecting myself and handling and getting into the hands of other collectors. So I really appreciate the service that you guys offer, Max.
Well, great. Good to hear.
If you had mentioned sending a message on the site, how can people reach out and find you if they want to follow along with what Sportlots has going on?
Yeah, so Twitter is the social media tool of choice for us. I don't use Facebook much anymore. Twitter is usually the best place, and @Sportlots is our handle on Twitter. So I would definitely recommend following us on Twitter. We will be putting out, as new enhancements or new phases go in, maybe short videos to show what's going, before and after sort of things, and what's changed, what's going in and when it's going in. I'll be posting those on Twitter as we go along. And as far as enhancement ideas, you can use Twitter for that. I personally would recommend sending me a direct message though through the site. I think that works the best. And I'll make sure if it's a new idea that I get it filed and put it under the right screen. And if it's a screen only change, we might be able to get it in sooner. If it's across the board change that affects a lot of screens, it's probably something we'll do after the rewrite's complete.
Very cool. Well, thanks again for joining me today, Max.
Great. Appreciate it.
Like the athletes we admire, the Sports Card Shop is changing the game. We're not launching threes, bombing drives, or hitting dingers, but we have built a unique gathering spot for all collectors to trade cards, talk sports, play games, and watch their favorite athletes on the big screens. Yes, we've partnered with Panini, Upper Deck, Leaf, Topps, Fanatics, Pokemon, and others to bring you all the latest in sealed wax and singles. But the Sports Card Shop in New Buffalo, Michigan is much, much more. Our recent expansion brings collectible sneakers, Hot Wheels, and more sports and entertainment memorabilia into the mix. Our new Collector's Cave game room is the perfect place to throw a rip party, bring friends, rip packs, trade cards, play billiards, ping pong, shuffleboard, classic arcade, and Xbox games, all while watching your favorite sport on TV. Visit us at thesportscardshop.com. Follow us on social @_sportscardshop, or better yet, visit us in person to learn about special events, party packages, new products, and everything we're doing for you. The Sports Card Shop, connecting people, sports, and the hobby around the world.
I am glad Max and I had a chance to connect for another conversation. There were some pretty interesting nuggets tucked away in there about Sportlots and the size of the site and the size of the new non-sports category that was growing. And I hope some of these upcoming changes continue to make Sportlots one of my favorite destinations and places to buy and sell cards. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens there. If you haven't already utilized Sportlots as a buyer or seller, I would appreciate you using the link in the show notes or the link off of WaxPackHero.com to sign up and register on the site. It's an affiliate link, gives me a little bit of a bump for referring people to the site. So check that out if you haven't already. If you've got any other questions about how to use Sportlots the way that I approach buying and selling on Sportlots, I would love to help you out. Reach out to me at waxpackhero@gmail.com. Send me a message on Twitter at @TheMikeSummer. You can send me a message on Instagram or TikTok at WaxPackHero. I would love to help you out. I'm here to make your collecting experience better. Well, that is all I have for you today, so I'll catch you next time.